Stephen Ross, the skyscraper and the scandal. Stephen Ross built some of the most iconic real estate in America: Hudson Yards, the Time Warner Center, developments worth tens of billions of dollars. Then he bought the Miami Dolphins and somehow became better known for scandals than skyscrapers. Ross grew up in Detroit in a middle-class family. He went to the University of Michigan, got a law degree from Wayne State, then a master's in tax law from NYU. By the late 60s, he was working as a tax attorney in New York City. Boring? Sure, but it taught him how money moved. In 1972, Ross founded related companies with modest savings and a lot of ambition. The idea was simple: build affordable housing using government tax credits. It worked. He built project after project, learning the game, making connections, and slowly moving up market. By the 90s, Related was developing luxury condos, office towers, and mixed-use complexes all over the country. Then came Hudson Yards. Starting in 2012, Ross orchestrated the largest private real estate development in American history. He built an entire neighborhood on top of an active rail yard in Manhattan's West Side. We're talking 18 million square feet of office space, residential towers, a massive shopping center, a performing arts venue, and that giant honeycomb sculpture called the Vessel. The total price tag? Around $25 billion. Ross didn't just develop real estate, he created a zip code. By 2008, Ross was ready for football. He bought 50% of the Miami Dolphins for around $550 million, then acquired the remaining stake from Wayne Huizenga in 2009, bringing his total investment to about $1.1 billion. At the time, it was one of the highest prices ever paid for an NFL franchise. But Ross didn't stop at football. He's the man behind Equinox, the luxury gym chain, SoulCycle, the cult favorite spin class. He turned fitness into a lifestyle brand and made a fortune doing it. Then came the trouble. In February 2022, former Dolphins head coach Brian Flores filed a bombshell lawsuit against the NFL and multiple teams. One of the most explosive allegations? Flores claimed Ross offered him $100,000 per loss during the 2019 season. The idea was simple: tank the season, get a better draft pick. Flores said he refused. The Dolphins went 5-11 that year, which apparently wasn't bad enough for Ross's liking. Ross denied everything. He called the allegations false and defamatory, but the NFL investigated anyway. Here's where it gets worse. The league didn't find enough evidence to prove the tanking for picks scheme, but they found plenty of other dirt. Ross had been tampering with Tom Brady, while Brady was still on the Patriots in 2019 and again in 2021 when he was on the Buccaneers. He also had impermissible contact with Sean Payton while Payton was still under contract with the Saints. The punishment was severe. Ross was suspended for the first 6 weeks of the 2022 season. He was fined $1.5 million, and the Dolphins were stripped of a first-round pick in 2023 and a third-round pick in 2024 for tampering. The NFL basically said Ross was trying to build a super team through back channels, and they weren't having it. Oh, and there was the Tom Brady ownership situation. Reports surfaced that Brady was close to becoming a minority owner of the Dolphins and potentially coming out of retirement to play for them. The whole thing was messy, complicated, and fell apart. Ross also stepped into controversy outside of football. In 2019, he hosted a fundraiser for Donald Trump in the Hamptons. The backlash was immediate. Celebrities called for boycotts of Equinox and SoulCycle. Members canceled their subscriptions. Ross defended his right to support whoever he wanted politically, but the damage to his brands was real. Despite everything, Ross has done some legitimately good things. He's donated hundreds of millions to the University of Michigan. The business school literally bears his name. He's funded initiatives for affordable housing and community development. He's 85 years old now and still very much in control of the Dolphins. The football results? Frustrating. Miami has been competitive in recent years with Tua Tagovailoa and a fast offense, but they haven't won a playoff game since December 2000. That's a 25-year drought, the longest active streak in the NFL. They've made the playoffs a few times, but keep falling short in the wildcard round. Ross built Hudson Yards from nothing. He built Equinox into a fitness empire, but building a team that can actually win in January? That's still the missing piece. Arthur Blank, the Heartbreak Kid. Arthur Blank is proof that you can do almost everything right and still end up haunted by 4 digits, 28-3. Blank grew up in Sunnyside, Queens, the son of a pharmacist named Max who died when Arthur was just 15. His mother Molly went to work to support the family, and Blank learned early that nothing was given, everything was earned. He went to Babson College in Massachusetts, studied accounting, and eventually ended up working at a hardware chain called Handy Dan in the 70s. Then he got fired. In 78, Blank and his colleague Bernie Marcus were both let go after a corporate shakeup. Most people would have been devastated. Blank and Marcus saw an opportunity. They teamed up with investors Ken Langone and Pat Farah, scraped together some capital, and opened a new kind of hardware store, a warehouse-style superstore where contractors and regular homeowners could find everything they needed under one roof. They called it Home Depot. The first stores opened in Atlanta in June 1979. By the mid-90s, Home Depot had become the largest home improvement retailer in the world. By the time Blank retired from the company in 2001, it was worth tens of billions of dollars, and still climbing. He personally walked away with a fortune that's now worth over $8 billion. So what do you do when you've conquered retail? You buy a football team. In 2002, Blank purchased the Atlanta Falcons for $545 million. From the start, he was different from most NFL owners. He wasn't aloof or distant. He walked the sidelines. He knew players' names. He cried when they won and looked devastated when they lost. Falcons fans loved him because he clearly loved them back. Under Blank, the Falcons had success. Michael Vick became a superstar before his downfall. Matt Ryan arrived in 2008 and brought stability at quarterback for over a decade. The team made the playoffs multiple times, and in 2016, everything came together. The Falcons went 11-5, tore through the NFC, and reached Super Bowl 51 against the New England Patriots. What happened next will follow Arthur Blank to his grave. Atlanta dominated the first three quarters. They led 21-3 at halftime. By the third quarter, the lead ballooned to 28-3. The Falcons were 17 minutes away from their first Super Bowl championship. Vegas had their win probability 99.7%. It was over. Except it wasn't. Tom Brady orchestrated the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history. The Patriots scored 25 unanswered points, forced overtime, and won 34-28. Blank was shown on camera looking stunned, then crushed, then hollow. The confetti fell. It was red, white, and blue. Patriots colors. Atlanta's confetti never left the cannons. 28-3 became a meme, a punchline, a permanent scar. Every year on the anniversary, social media reminds Falcons fans what they lost. Blank has handled it with grace in public, but you can see it in his eyes whenever someone brings it up. The game was supposed to be his crowning achievement. Instead, it's his eternal nightmare. Since then, Blank has kept building. He opened Mercedes-Benz Stadium in 2017, an approximately $1.5 billion architectural marvel with a retractable roof that opens like a camera aperture. He made headlines by offering affordable concessions, $2 hot dogs, $5 beers, and prices that made fans actually want to buy food at a stadium. Other owners thought he was crazy. He didn't care. He also owns Atlanta United MLS, and they actually delivered a championship, winning the MLS Cup in 2018 in just their second season. At least one Atlanta team knows how to finish. Off the field, Blank is one of the most generous owners in sports. The Arthur M. Blank Family Foundation has given over $800 million to charitable causes, youth development, community building, education, and more. He's not just an owner, he's a civic institution in Atlanta. Arthur Blank is 82 years old now. He's been married 3 times and has 6 children. He's got more money than he could ever spend and a legacy that includes one of America's greatest companies. But when people think of Arthur Blank, they think of that fourth quarter. They think of the camera cutting to his face as the lead disappeared. They think of what could have been. 28-3. Forever. Clark Hunt, the heir who delivered. Clark Hunt was born into football royalty. His father literally invented a league. And for most of his life, people wondered if the son could ever live up to the legacy. Turns out he could. Lamar Hunt was one of the most important figures in professional sports history. When the NFL rejected his bid to buy an existing franchise in the late 50s, he didn't sulk. He started his own league, the American Football League. He founded the Dallas Texans in 1960, moved them to Kansas City in 1963, and renamed them the Chiefs, and spent the next decade building the AFL into a legitimate rival. When the NFL and AFL finally merged in 1970, it was largely because of Lamar's vision and persistence. Oh, and he came up with the name Super Bowl. The story goes that he was inspired by his daughter's Super Ball toy. He tossed the name out casually, like it was nothing, and it stuck forever. Lamar Hunt wasn't just football. He helped found Major League Soccer, owned multiple MLS teams, promoted tennis tournaments, and even owned a piece of the Chicago Bulls. The man saw sports as a vehicle for community, entertainment, and legacy. When he died in December 2006, he left behind an empire and enormous shoes to fill. Clark Hunt was born in 1965, one of Lamar's 4 children. He grew up around football, literally. He attended Chiefs games as a kid, worked for the team in various capacities, and earned a degree from SMU's Cox School of Business. But when Lamar died, Clark wasn't automatically handed the throne. The Hunt family had to figure out succession. In 2006, Clark became the chairman and CEO of the Kansas City Chiefs. His siblings retained ownership stakes, but Clark was the one running the show. Some people wondered if he was ready. The Chiefs had been mediocre for years. The Arrowhead magic had faded. Could a trust fund kid revive a sleeping giant? The early returns weren't great. From 2007 to 2012, the Chiefs were mostly terrible. They went 2-14 in 2012, one of the worst seasons in franchise history. They missed the playoffs 5 years straight. Fans were restless. The Hunt legacy felt like a burden, not a blessing. Then Clark made the moves that changed everything. In January 2013, the Chiefs hired Andy Reid, the former Eagles coach who'd been let go after 14 seasons in Philly. It was seen as a solid hire, but not a home run. Reid was considered past his prime by some. Clark saw something else, a proven winner who needed a fresh start. Reid delivered immediately. The Chiefs went 11-5 in his first season, but the real transformation came in 2017 when Kansas City traded up and drafted a quarterback from Texas Tech named Patrick Mahomes with the 10th overall pick. They believed. Mahomes sat for a year behind Alex Smith. Then in 2018, he was unleashed. 5,097 passing yards, 50 touchdowns, MVP at 23 years old. And suddenly, the Kansas City Chiefs weren't just good, they were the most exciting team in football. In February 2020, the Chiefs won Super Bowl 54, beating the San Francisco 49ers 31-20. It was Kansas City's first championship in 50 years. Clark Hunt stood on that stage and accepted the trophy named after his father. The Lamar Hunt Trophy goes to the AFC champion every year. Now Clark was holding the Lombardi Trophy too. They weren't done. In February 2023, the Chiefs beat the Eagles 38-35 in Super Bowl 57. In February 2024, they beat the 49ers again, 25-22 in overtime for Super Bowl 58. 3 championships in 5 years. A dynasty. Clark Hunt took over a franchise that hadn't won a Super Bowl since January 1970 and turned it into the dominant team of its era. He did it by hiring the right coach, drafting the right quarterback, and getting out of the way. He's not a meddler. He's not a headline seeker. He shows up, supports his people, and lets them work. Now the Chiefs are chasing history. They've got Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid, and a culture built to last. The question isn't whether they'll compete. It's whether they can keep this going for another decade. Clark Hunt was born on third base. He'll be the first to admit that, but he still had to run home. And watching him hold that trophy, the one named after his father, you could see what it meant. He didn't just inherit a legacy, he built on it. 3 owners, 3 completely different journeys. Stephen Ross built skyscrapers and empires, then got caught playing games with the league's rules and paid the price, and he's still waiting for that elusive playoff win. Arthur Blank turned a firing into a retail empire worth tens of billions, gave back to his city, built a stadium people actually enjoy, and still can't escape 3 numbers that define his football legacy. And Clark Hunt took the weight of his father's name and delivered 3 Super Bowl championships, proving that sometimes the heir can actually exceed the throne. That's part 3. If you enjoyed this, subscribe, drop a like, and I'll see you in part 4.